and got FOIA applications and got all of the helmet cam footage and pieced the whole thing together. And
how many people were there?
I think it was 8 Green Berets, 4 were killed.
4 died. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and so
it's
the most loss of life that the U.S. military has sustained reportedly for special forces since Black Hawk Down, the Battle of Mogadishu in 1993.
There's a new Netflix series out on that, by the way. Like I
saw that there was. I saw there was one out. Yeah,
it's actually pretty good. I did watch that a couple of weeks ago. Okay, let's pull this up. The Topanga incident.
The Topanga incident. Yeah. Okay. So we'll watch the first minute or two, and then we'll switch over to the animation, which kind of gives a bird's eye view of what went down.
All right.
On October 4th, 2017, 8 heavily armed pickup trucks left the village of Tongo Tongo in Niger, West Africa. They were several U.S. Special Forces and African soldiers in search of Dundu Shefu, a high-ranking IS leader in the region. Only a short time later, the Special Forces were ambushed and became the hunted themselves. The tragic events, in which the Green Berets fought for their lives on their own, became known as the deadly Tongo Tongo ambush. As soon as the convoy left the village, the rear vehicles came under enemy fire from a well-prepared ambush. The fire was sporadic at first, but became stronger as they reached a small forest. To counter the enemy, the soldiers halted and dismounted under covering fire. The team leader of the Green Berets then formed a squad with 4 Nigerian soldiers and engaged the enemy forces, neutralizing 4 insurgents. Once the threat was eliminated, however, they noticed something far more concerning. The gunmen they had just engaged were only the tip of the enemy forces. Behind them, nearly 100 more enemies were advancing on motorcycles and pickup trucks, equipped with machine guns, mortars, and other heavy weapons. The team leader, recognizing the danger, ran back to the convoy and ordered his soldiers to withdraw as quickly as possible. However, since most of the forces were spread out, the evasion was delayed and uncoordinated. Therefore, 3 Green Berets, who had previously covered the withdrawal of their comrades, suddenly found themselves alone on the battlefield. They were Brian Black, Jeremiah Johnson, and Dustin Wright. The 3 special forces now faced nearly 100 enemies and had no heavy weapons or air support available. Following the principle of fire and move, they tried to disengage from the enemy, but the IS fighters were too fast and too many. Despite the Green Berets' accurate defensive fire, they were getting closer and closer. Every yard gained allowed the enemy to engage the special forces even more effectively. Brian Black was the first soldier to be hit, as he ran alongside the rolling vehicle to provide covering fire for his comrades. He died instantly. Johnson and Wright returned fire before pulling Black into cover behind the vehicle. But as the enemies got closer, both realized they would be overrun at any moment. Within seconds, they made the difficult decision to leave their fallen comrade behind and ran for their lives. In the open steppe, they initially managed to escape the hail of enemy bullets, but soon Johnson was hit and fell to the dusty ground. Wright turned and saw Johnson badly wounded lying on the ground, with bullets hitting all around him. He had a chance to escape and perhaps save his life, but decided not to leave his brother to the insurgents. He then ran back and defended Johnson until he too was hit and went down, badly wounded. According to the Geneva Conventions, wounded and obviously incapacitated are under protection and must be cared for. In the video footage, Johnson was almost motionless on the ground and could no longer lift a weapon. Since the IS fighters did not agree to the Geneva Convention, nor care about human aspects in war, they came within a few yards and executed both severely wounded men with numerous shots at close range. Staff Sergeant LaDavid Johnson was the 4th American soldier who was killed during the Tongo Tongo ambush. The American and African soldiers who had managed to disengage from the enemy in time took up positions about 700 yards south of the attack site. Among them was LaDavid Johnson, the team's mechanic. When the group realized they had left 3 comrades behind, they tried to contact the squad by radio, however, to no avail. Finally, 4 Green Berets volunteered to run back to the dangerous battlefield to search for the soldiers. After the rescue squad set off, the forces that had just escaped were shot at again. Johnson returned fire with one of the mounted machine guns on the vehicles. When ammunition ran out, he continued to engage the enemy with his sniper rifle. However, as the group was threatened to be surrounded by the enemy again, the team leader had to order an evasion maneuver for the second time. The vehicles began moving and sped away at top speed to escape the hail of enemy bullets. In the process, they left Johnson and 2 of the African soldiers behind, assuming they would join the convoy in a moment. However, enemy fire became so intense that Johnson was unable to enter his truck, which had its driver's side facing the enemy. As the insurgents came closer, the 3 soldiers had no choice but to escape on foot across the savannah. They ran as fast as they could. The enemies reached the empty pickup truck, recognized the fleeing soldiers, and immediately pursued with their vehicles. The African soldiers got about 400 yards before they were caught up and killed. But David Johnson, who had tremendous stamina due to his good training, managed to run almost a mile from the enemy before taking up his final stand at a small bush. From here, he fiercely fought off numerous enemies, successfully keeping them at bay at first. However, the mechanic had only his assault rifle and no heavy weapons. There was no radio or phone connection to his comrades. Nevertheless, the family man did not give up and ceaselessly returned fire. It was only when the Islamists approached within 100 yards in an armed vehicle and fired a hail of bullets at Johnson that they were able to take him out. He died alone, with a gun in his hand, and after receiving a total of 18 gunshot wounds. It took 2 days to locate and recover his body. The lively soldier left behind his pregnant wife, a daughter, and a son. Michael Perozzini and Brent Bartles were the leaders during the Tongo Tongo ambush. In addition to their American comrades, they also coordinated the African soldiers. Even before the ambush, they had expressed their concerns about the operation because they had no heavy weapons or air support. Moreover, they'd been in the field for a long time and desperately needed to rest, as well as replenish their supplies. Nevertheless, higher leadership urged them to continue the search for the IS leader.
Yeah, so
That's insane, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so well, before we get to the animation, which will kind of show what they were just explaining, let me jump over here. So Washington Post, this is October 18th. And so this story was very obviously overshadowed by the Vegas shooting, right?
Yeah.
So I think it took a few weeks for this story to kind of matriculate into the media. But you have the Washington Post here, October 18th, 2017. Fallen soldier's mother, Trump did disrespect my son. And so this is Johnson's mother saying that says the mother of a soldier killed in an ambush in Africa said Wednesday that President Trump did disrespect my son with remarks in a condolence telephone call. Sergeant Johnson's mother, Kawanda Jones Johnson, told the Washington Post that she was present during the call from the White House on Tuesday to Johnson's widow, Maisha Johnson. She also stood by an account of the call from Representative Frederica S. Wilson that Trump told Maisha Johnson that her husband must have known what he signed up for. President Trump did disrespect my son and my daughter, and also me and my husband, Jones Johnson said. Trump lashed back at Wilson. He denied her account in a Twitter message Wednesday. He said he had proof that the exchange did not go as Wilson had described. Trump did not elaborate, but White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said the president had not taped the conversation. She said several White House staffers were in the room during the call, including Chief of Staff John F. Kelly. Sanders described Trump's call as completely respectful. Yeah. And so,
okay. So hold on. So
yeah,
these people are ordered there. They probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. We get multiple casualties. It's overshadowed by the Vegas shooting. And then it comes out that they're trying to accuse Trump of like a gotcha, like, yeah, he accused me of something. It's almost like a Zelensky op here in a lot of ways, like the phone call op. Okay, so where does this go from here? He denies it. He says he has proof, doesn't elaborate what the proof is. I think they say in there that you know, the president doesn't record conversations, even though I'm sure most of the conversations the president has are recorded. What's next?
Yeah. So basically, you have wall to wall. All the MSM outlets are pushing this narrative. Here's NBC, CNN. Then a few days later, ABC. I was very angry at Trump. So it's like they're like George Stephanopoulos speaks to the family, does like his Good Morning America little routine where he's gonna. The whole thing was obviously a coordinated psyop against Trump, and to what extent the family was involved and to what extent they were lied to about things, who's to say? But the point is that if you go back to the original situation in Africa, the Pentagon told them to go to this meeting. They're sitting at the meeting for all day, for hours and hours and hours. They're radioing back. They're saying, "Hey, this doesn't feel right. Something isn't right." They send one of them to a local village to see what's going on. The villagers all jump on their motorbikes and zoom off when they pull up. Like, it feels very suspicious. Like, everything is just very, very suspicious. And all their instincts are telling them to leave. But their commander is telling them, no matter what you do, do not move from the spot where you are right now. So the allegation being thrown at the Pentagon is that the Pentagon hired ISIS to come and kill these guys in order to make Trump look bad.
Wow.
That's the allegation. The Pentagon. That's the allegation, is that people in the Pentagon set this up. That's what the Green Berets believe. The Green Berets who investigated this and have put all this information out, who put together the video.
No,
that video that we just watched was put out by an account called Brothers in Arms, and it was put together by a group of guys who spent a lot of time going through, getting all the data, making sure they understood it, and putting the narrative together, so to speak.
So who was the commander then that would have ordered this? Like, who are they saying is directly involved? I mean, does it go all the way up to who would have been Secretary of Defense then?
There was a person who was held accountable, and that person is. So then right here you have right here. Whoa, come on.
I'm trying to see if I can find it here too.
Because the guy who went in pursuit of answers apparently was punished for trying to pursue answers. Somebody was ultimately fired, but basically like somebody was fired and that was it. And I have that article here. I'm just waiting for it to load.
Yeah, no worries. I'm reading through, like, everybody got involved in this. Senate, Dunford provided information. Doesn't say who got fired yet, though. It says on May 10th, 2018, the U.S. Department of Defense released an unclassified executive summary of the DoD's investigation and gave a briefing on the outcome of the department's investigation. The report found that personnel turnover had caused the 11-member U.S. Special Force team to forego important training before being deployed, that the team did not rehearse the mission. That's the excuse.
Yeah.
2 junior officers had mischaracterized the mission in planning documents. Jeez.
Yeah, that's why does he want to send me there? Yeah, and that's a bunch of bullshit, because while that's true, it's 100% true. They didn't follow any of the protocols. They didn't rehearse the mission. They didn't have air support. They didn't have. Allegedly, there are other Green Berets who are saying that they were loaded onto helicopters, prepared to fly in and save these guys. And the helicopters took they were all told to stand down. One of the helicopters allegedly took off, basically defying orders, took off, and then was somehow forced back down to the ground, and was prepared to go save these guys, and was told to land and not go after them. So
here's who was in charge. I can point this out here. November 2018, the U.S. military sent letters of reprimand to 4 officers and 2 soldiers, most notably to Air Force General Marcus Hicks, who was in charge of Special Operations Forces in Africa, and Captain Mike Perozeni.
Okay, so here's in the New York Times article from, it's still from the same period, from October 2017. It says conflicting accounts in Niger ambush are subject to Pentagon investigations. The Pentagon's now going to investigate itself in this story, which we all know how that always ends up. And yeah, you're right. There were letters of reprimand, but what ends up happening is,
Bro, they actually punished one of the captains that was involved.
exactly. They punished one of the guys who was on the ground with them, and they blamed him because he was the one who went in pursuit of the truth. And so because of that, they turned around and they punished him. They said, you know what? It's actually your fault because you were on the ground with them. Why did you lead your guys into an ambush?
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I was wondering why that name sounded familiar, but they said in the video. Some of those punished in recent weeks include the Green Beret team leader, Captain Mike Perozeni, and his second in command, a master sergeant. Those absent from the 6 letters of reprimand include the 2 senior officers who approved the mission and who then oversaw the operation as it went fatally awry. That is terrible.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like we have actual traitors in the Pentagon who are fully prepared to not only kill Americans, but to kill special forces, to kill our our most highly trained soldiers in order for political purposes, for a false flag, basically.
Yeah, just to get dirt on Trump. That's so disgusting, bro. Do you have the animation?
Yeah, let me pull the animation up. I share my screen. Yeah, and for everyone who's interested in the story, I will do like a much more in-depth dive on this with Alpha and CanCon, and they can kind of explain, and I'll let them explain some of the
at 11
things that we're watching and what would happen, like, after the operation and how this would be run down, etc.
35 hours, the team moved out of the village of Tongo Tongo on their planned route. Approximately 100 meters outside of the village, enemy forces attacked the team with small arms fire directed at the rear of the convoy. Enemy fire was initially light, then intensified as they advanced through the woods on the team's position. At this point, the convoy halted. The team reported enemy contact to the Advanced Operating Base. U.S. Vehicle 1 and U.S. Vehicle 3 immediately began returning fire with their mounted M240 machine guns, while team personnel exited vehicles, donned personal protective equipment, and returned small arms fire. The team commander and 4 Nigerian soldiers maneuvered on foot to the southeast to flank what was estimated to be a small enemy force. At this time, the Nigerian, AOB, and SOCC commanders began sending response elements to the team's location. The team sergeant moved forward with U.S. Vehicle 3 to better control the unit and to coordinate machine gun fire with U.S. Vehicle 1. Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson moved from U.S. Vehicle 3 back to near U.S. Vehicle 2, intending to fire an AT-4 anti-tank rocket at the enemy toward the north. The investigation determined that Niger Vehicle 5 departed the ambush site during this period, but did not determine precisely when or by what route. The commander's flanking element continued their movement until a body of water prevented them from advancing further. They identified and engaged enemy fighters across the body of water. The team commander observed a larger than expected enemy force moving to his east, which consisted of motorcycles and vehicles with mounted heavy machine guns. The flanking element returned to the halted convoy at 11:57 hours and issued the order to move south to prevent being outflanked by enemy forces. The movement was not immediate, as the team commander and team sergeant had to rally and recover Nigerian forces who had taken cover in the woods. Niger Vehicles 3 and 4 were immobilized and abandoned. Niger Vehicles 1 and 2 were the first to depart. As the rest of the team loaded into their vehicles, they saw Staff Sergeants Brian Black, Jeremiah Johnson, and Dustin Wright in the vicinity of U.S. Vehicle 2. The team commander signaled to begin movement, and Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson acknowledged the order with a thumbs up. A team member threw a smoke grenade to conceal the team's movement. Staff Sergeant Dustin Wright entered U.S. Vehicle 2 and began driving it slowly forward, while Staff Sergeants Brian Black and Jeremiah Johnson walked along the protected side of the vehicle. Staff Sergeant Brian Black moved slightly ahead of U.S. Vehicle 2 and was killed by enemy small arms fire. Staff Sergeant Dustin Wright stopped and exited the vehicle. Staff Sergeants Jeremiah Johnson and Dustin Wright remained with Staff Sergeant Brian Black until overwhelming enemy fire forced them to withdraw. 85 meters southwest of U.S. Vehicle 2, Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson was shot and rendered immobile. Staff Sergeant Dustin Wright stopped, returned to near his teammate's position, and continued to engage the enemy until both were fatally wounded. U.S. Vehicles 1 and 3 and 2 Nigerian vehicles drove approximately 700 meters south of the ambush site to form a defensive position referred to as Position 2. The team realized that not all of their personnel and vehicles were present at the defensive position. After repeated attempts to radio the team members last seen in the vicinity of U.S. Vehicle 2, 2 U.S. SOF members from U.S. Vehicle 3 volunteered to return on foot to the ambush site to attempt to locate them. Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, a special operations mechanic and the driver for U.S. Vehicle 3, moved to the rear of the vehicle to engage the enemy with the vehicle-mounted M240 machine gun.
Can you pause it?
That weapon ran out of ammunition. He switched to...
We'll continue in a second, but this seems like a lot more forces than in that other video. You know what I mean? Like there seems like there's a lot more people on our side in this little animation when you count the African soldiers.
Yeah.
Do we know the total number that are believed to have been in the opposing forces?
I think they said it's estimated. Let me check it out.
I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, I mean, it says that the strength of the two sides, this is according to the Wikipedia. It says 100 plus militants, 12 technicals, meaning like the trucks, 20 motorcycles, and it's giving me the tilde next to it, meaning it's plus or minus.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so on the American side, 35 personnel of the Nigerians, 10 Americans, and then the reinforcements were 53 French commandos, a number like 4 helicopters, some fighter jets, 3 quick reaction force elements that had at least 100 soldiers, a helicopter, and 2 UAVs. So it's unclear whether those other things I just listed
Even
are in the animation, but I think it's 45 guys you're looking at in the animation, 35 Nigerians, 10 Americans.
Okay.
So
okay. Sorry. Okay, let's keep playing. Let's finish this thing.
To the M2010 sniper rifle. Approximately 10 minutes later, 2 additional U.S. team members moved to join the pair that was maneuvering back to the ambush site. The first pair moved to where they thought U.S. Vehicle 2 would be, encountering and killing several enemy combatants before needing to withdraw under fire. As they were withdrawing to the southwest, they linked up with their follow-on teammates and began planning another route to U.S. Vehicle 2. Back at Position 2, the team commander and his element continued to battle the enemy attacking from the east. At approximately 12:25 hours, enemy gun trucks and dismounted forces opened fire on Position 2 from the southeast. The overwhelming fire forced the team commander to order a withdrawal. 2 Nigerian vehicles departed the area, moving to the southwest. U.S. Vehicle 1 circled the perimeter under intense fire gathering American and Nigerian personnel. Simultaneously, Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and Nigerian personnel attempted to board U.S. Vehicle 3. Special Operations members last saw Sergeant LaDavid Johnson moving around to the driver's position of U.S. Vehicle 3 between 12:25 and 12:30 hours. U.S. Vehicles 1 and 3 came under overwhelming enemy machine gun fire, preventing Sergeant LaDavid Johnson from entering his vehicle. Believing Sergeant Johnson was in control of his vehicle, the driver of U.S. Vehicle 1 accelerated hard to the northwest. Unable to enter U.S. Vehicle 3, Sergeant Johnson and 2 partner Nigerians became separated from U.S. Vehicle 1. They escaped on foot, eventually running to the southwest with the enemy in pursuit.
This is crazy, man.
Yeah, absolutely crazy.
And clearly, it's
The Nigerian soldiers were killed with small arms fire roughly 400 meters from Position 2. Sergeant Johnson evaded for an additional 450 meters and reached the only concealment in the vicinity, a single thorny tree.
I mean, you saw that helmet camera. There is nowhere to hide in that place.
Yeah.
At this position, he continued to fight. An enemy vehicle, armed with a mounted heavy machine gun, stopped within 100 meters of Sergeant Johnson's location, firing on his position and cutting off further escape while enemy forces closed in.
Jeez, man.
Yeah. So
5 of the 7 passengers in the members did not realize U.S. Vehicle 3 did not follow. During this movement, 5 of the 7 passengers in the vehicle sustained gunshot wounds, with 1 Nigerian fatally wounded. The driver was shot through the elbow, but continued to drive. The team commander, riding in the bed of U.S. Vehicle 1, was shot and thrown off the vehicle.
Jeez.
The driver performed another circular maneuver under heavy fire to recover the commander, and resumed movement towards the northwest with the enemy in pursuit. Once inside the tree line, U.S. Vehicle 1 became stuck in mud.
jeez.
The 4 Special Forces soldiers who previously went to the ambush site saw U.S. Vehicle 1 and moved to rejoin those team members. At 12:33 hours, the team radioed that they were being overrun. This was the team's first report for assistance. Expecting their radios would be recovered by the enemy, the team disabled them, ending the ability to communicate using these devices.
Jeez.
7 American and 4 Nigerian personnel fled U.S. Vehicle 1, evading under concentrated small arms and mortar fire. They moved through the swamp, broke contact with the enemy, and stopped at the clearing on the northwest side of the wooded area. The team established a hasty defense at this location at approximately 12:50 hours.
That's insane, man.
Yeah.
Tonight,
It most,
See-
most certainly is. Yeah, and then I mean the media response to all that was absolutely disgusting, where they tried to blame it on Trump. They tried to make it Trump's fault. I mean, I think most people probably haven't heard of this. I certainly hadn't until Brian and I covered it on Badlands Daily because it was relevant to a story we were talking about in Africa last summer, and but that whole story is basically the reason that one of the big reasons I decided to start the Book of Trump show is because these are the kind of anecdotes that like none of us knew about, and if you even read about it in the headlines, you certainly probably didn't hear the details. But these are stories that obviously need to be told, because if what is being alleged here against the Pentagon is at all truthful, these people are traitors and need to face like the most severe justice imaginable for treason.
Has there been any, mention or even like not just since this happened, because this was 2017? So there's obviously like no
2017.
investigation or mention into like that aspect of it, the conspiracy aspect of the Pentagon actually ordered this to entrap Trump. But has anybody ever brought this up, even like with Biden there, or on Trump's campaign trail, or since Hegseth has been in? Does it ever get brought up?
That is a very, very good question. There's a DoD report that I can share here.
Because like I know there was multiple different kinds of investigations into this incident, and like we saw earlier, there's reprimands on a couple people, including the person who was on the mission and got screwed over. But if what was alleged or is alleged here, that the Pentagon may have had like an overt role in setting these people up and trying to get them killed just to get points against Trump, that is like a serious thing that needs to be looked at again.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's really what needs to be run down. And again, I apologize for not having all of these facts straight because kind of threw this together last minute, but those are the questions that I think need to be addressed. Is we need to address who knew what has come out of all of this, what is ultimately the fallout, and who's been held responsible. And as far as we can tell, really no one's been held responsible. I think that's the problem.
Yeah. Are any of these the members that were part of the special ops force, are they still in the military today?
I think, as far as I know, I think one of them. Let me see. I'm pretty sure one of them I think is still in. Let me see the members.
I guess I could probably look that up too. Oh man, I didn't realize this. On October 4th, 2019, the U.S. offered I'll share my screen so you can see what I'm reading. A $5 million bounty on Adnan Abu Walid al-Sahrawi under the Rewards for Justice program. He was killed by French forces in a mid-2021 raid. A 45-minute video of the 2017 incident was recovered. Senior ISGS commander Abu Hazifa, on whom the U.S. had placed a $5 million bounty for his role in the ambush, was killed in April 2024. That's interesting too. That's very recent.
In a joint operation of forces of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, which would be Ibrahim Traore, who's the guy I've been writing about in Burkina Faso. So that he's a Putin ally. He's the guy that Putin's been helping to basically save Africa.
So all the footage was discovered by Tuareg rebels?
Yeah, Tuareg rebels. That's these are rebels that are in Mali. You may remember the footage that we saw of the Wagner forces, where like all those dead Wagner guys.
Yeah.
That's this same area. That you have like different groups that are all fighting there. Some of them are ISIS, some of them are rebels, some of them are like NATO aligned. You know, it's very similar to the Middle East in terms of just all these different factions.
Also, speaking of this justice reward program, looks like a State Department thing. I wonder if this has anything to do with like USAID at all.
Interesting. Yeah, what's that called? Seal of Rewards for Justice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't see anything for USAID specifically yet. DSS. Huh. Yeah, man. This is a fascinating story. Obviously, guys, with Zach out tonight, we're not going to do our typical length of a show. We're probably going to wrap it up here soon. But is there any closing thoughts on this? I know this is more of a preview for the discussion you're going to have with who are you doing with CanCon and Alpha?
Yeah, I'm with CanCon and Alpha. There is a 2-star. If you share my screen, there is a 2-star general who was punished, but I don't think that was the guy who was on the. That might have been the guy that you listed, but yeah, I mean, this is something that like when you put this side by side with like what we just saw out of Pam Bondi, I think it really provides a lot of context for just how out of control the people in our government are. It's so far beyond just like child trafficking with Epstein, which is not a small issue. That might be the biggest issue. But a lot of the reports that are coming out of Ukraine seem to indicate that perhaps people in the State Department are also involved in child trafficking, organ trafficking, gun trafficking, drug trafficking, all of it in Ukraine. And Ukraine might even be like the hub of all of it. So those are all things that need to be run down. I think Epstein is literally just the tip of the iceberg. And so getting transparency from that, I think, is only the beginning of a much bigger story that involves stuff like this.
It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. This is one of those things, like if Badlands had a seat at the White House press corps,
Yep.
These are questions we could ask. We would ask questions like this. Like,
Yep.
would we ever see justice for something along these lines? Or, oh, you know what? I do have a contact at the DOD now. I think I can maybe.
Do you?
Yeah. I'll talk to you about it at GART. We can maybe get questions like this through. It's a media person there. It's not like somebody within the DOD,
Yeah.
But I know somebody in the media that covers the Pentagon, and maybe I can get a question in. We'll see.
This is specifically, though, like when I was before when we were covering the White House and I said they're asking like no one's asking good questions. This is specifically one of the things I was thinking of, like ask about the Tongo ambush and why nobody's been held accountable for it. Why hasn't there been real accountability aside from punishing one of the guys who was being shot at by these people? Why hasn't that been run down? That whole thing needs to be run down, and it's despicable, man. It's evil.
Totally agree with you. But unless you got anything else you want to add, I think we should get to the boost and we can get a early out tonight since it's a crazy week.
Yep.
All right. Well, first up, wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't remind you guys that we are at GART this week. There will be limited shows on Badlands Network while we're down there. Like I won't have the Daily Herald on Thursday or Friday. No Liberty Day on Friday. The DPH will be live from the stage on Saturday, but I couldn't encourage you guys more to get your virtual ticket. Join us at this event. Even if you can't be there in person, you can be there from your couch, and it's nearly just as good. You'll get access to the chat, hang out with everybody. You'll get to ask questions during the panels, and you'll get to enjoy some great content. I'm really excited about the panels we put together for this one. I think it's going to be unique, and I think it's going to be very engaging if we can pull it off. That's the question mark. But badlandsmedia.tv/events. Get your ticket today. And then we also got, let's see, do we have any boosts? We got a boost from Casey Mom $25. Idea for conspiracy Tropic. Why the feds intentionally poisoned Americans during Prohibition, killing thousands, and why you've never heard about it. That's interesting. Sounds like a great conspiracy. I'm going to jot that one down.
Yeah, that is a good one.
And then we'll get a couple boosts here. Hit that thumbs up, everybody, by the way. That would be greatly appreciated. Actually, before we do the rants, do you want to tell anybody about your show, Book of Trump, anybody who may not have seen it?
Yeah. So tonight I brought J-Treat on. Last week I did The Crown Prince. So we just did background on Saudi Arabia and how his position in the family, MBS, and why him becoming Crown Prince was really never supposed to happen. He wasn't even on the radar of the people at the CIA who are tasked with studying the family to figure out who's going to rise up in the ranks. And then so this week we did the sword dance, but really the bulk of the show was focusing on how Trump went from April 2016 in his campaign talking about Muslims being banned from the United States to the sword dance a year later, because there was all this drama with the Arabs like texting Trump's people being like, or emailing them saying, whoa, what he's saying sounds pretty crazy. And the back and forth, because all the emails got leaked to the New York Times, of course. It's pretty interesting. How that whole evolution happened. And so, that's the point of the show, though, is to kind of detail the history and speculation, of course, here and there, but most of it is trying to capture the actuals and convey it in something that's coherent.
Awesome. And you can check, what day is that show? It's Mondays at what time?
Mondays at 7:30 Eastern.
Awesome. All right. Okay. A couple rants here. A Gate says, good evening all, and prayers for safe travel to Vegas. Jealous that I'm not attending in person. Blessings to Zach and Lisa. Yep. They are getting married on Saturday. And I am the Reverend. Cannot wait. Still have to finish working on my stuff for that, but we'll get there. Melindy, cheers, Badlanders. Happy trails to all traveling this week. Thank you, Melindy. Sheila Garcia, David X22 is saying the op with the influencers was only to expose the sleepers at SDNY FBI. And you know what? It is entirely possible that's true. That's one explanation for it. But you can't just focus on that explanation because we can't determine that's it with any level of certainty. So you have to be open to all explanations. And there are other explanations that are like not okay, not good.
Yeah.
As in Pam Bondi is full of shit. If that is a possible explanation and she's just pulling us along, lying to us, that being the case, like if you're wrong about it being like part of some plan in the SNY thing, it's pretty damaging.
Yeah.
That being wrong about that, considering the alternatives. So
yeah,
I mean, trying to rain on any parades, but
yeah. And when you consider that, this whole situation, this whole movement is about restoring faith and trust in the government, right? There's the people who actually dig into the stuff the way that we dig into it, the way that like our entire community, not just Badlands, but everyone in the truth community, so to speak, digs into it. That's a fraction of the population, right? Most people are not going to go to that level to figure this stuff out. And so they're just going to accept whatever is being presented on the surface. If we're trying to restore faith and trust, we can't have like the nonsense. And so open-minded, but it doesn't look good.
I agree. G Fontes 119. Wow. Zach's really not wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I called it earlier. You sure did. ZBM, Zach, need your expertise. Is Obama's real name actually Barry Soetoro? Still don't know how to the last name. We did a whole episode on it. And on the show, if you go to our Badlands Rumble channel and click on playlists and click on Baseless Conspiracies, if you scroll down, you'll find the Obama episode at some point. We got Sheila Garcia again. This just smoked out all the sleepers at SDNY. Think about it. Zach is spot on too. Maybe. You don't know that for sure. It's a possible theory, but you don't know with any level of certainty. Cassius said he has seen it all. Where the F are the arrests? Ours are a bunch of pussies. They are arrested. DJT, WTF. We will be sitting here 3 years from now asking, where are the arrests? Maybe.
Yeah, but it's better to ask those questions now than to wait 3 years from now to start asking. I would say that.
I'd agree with that. Keith Higgins, overview is a crock of shit, draws more flies than an amber herd turd. What? PJ Corrigan, I can't believe how insecure Zach can be. He starts feeling like Gordon is doing a better job than him, so he calls in like, nice stream you guys got here. Sure, it'd be a shame if somebody ended it.
Troll.
Not actually,
PJ.
not actually what he did, but yeah, kind of looked that way, didn't it? Igor Tigor 97, nah, bro. Operation Red Wings, aka Lone Survivor, was in 2004, and 2 helicopters full of 19 Navy SEALs were shot down. So 93 was not the last time so many Special Forces guys were killed in action. You know nothing, Ghost. Wow, that was rude. You might be right though. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong about that, but that's what the official rhetoric is from the DoD. So that's just their tagline, not my tagline.
808 France sounds like what happened to the USS Liberty, not letting help come in, setting it up and not letting the help come in. Yeah, that's not a good thing to do in any scenario. 808 France, JK Nerdy. Thanks for your efforts, brothers. God bless. Thank you. 1027 JS says this is sickening. You're absolutely right. Thank you. Joe Keith Higgins, wouldn't it be wonderful if the U.S. public got such a detailed graphic depiction of movements for January 6 players, EPS especially, Jan 6 bomber, both assassination attempts, Georgia Guidestones? Yeah, there's a lot of things we could use some clarification on, clarity, if that's the right word. And we haven't gotten it yet, but maybe someday. Kitsko, Badlands hosts attending wedding ceremony. Navy blue jackets requested. John, will there be cake? I have no idea about any of those things, even the jackets. No idea. No promises either. But I'll see what I can do. Keith Higgins, ironic how since Niger attack, its neighboring countries, Mali, Chad, and even Ethiopia have had military and political upheaval, all move east to west on latitudinal lines.
Yeah, Mali, Niger, which is where this happened, and Burkina Faso. Those are all like the white hat countries, you would say, working with Putin, trying to get Africa out. All the countries south of them along the coast, those are all the pro-NATO countries that are aligned with the regime.
Interesting.
Very
interesting.
confusing too that Niger and Nigeria share a border, and both people from both countries I think are called Nigerian. So it's like you're a Nigerian if you're from Nigeria, and you're a Nigerian if you're from Niger.
Yeah, that's confusing as hell.
Yeah.
And then Isaiah 53, Ghost is the best. He's all right.
Appreciate it.
He's all right. I don't know if I can vouch for him being the best, but he's definitely all right. But Ghost, I do appreciate you joining, man. That was very informational. I'm excited to see you do this with Alpha and Brian, although considering you're co-host on that show, it probably won't be as exciting as this one.
I'm excited to hear what they have to say, because I'm sure they're going to provide a lot more of the content of the background and analysis. So
yeah,
and
good,
we'll definitely run down what the fallout of all this has been, and hopefully Alpha will have some insight as to where we take it from here, because this obviously needs to be addressed.
I would agree with you, man. But awesome. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, 1 p.m. Eastern, the Daily Herald. And get your guard tickets. Hit the thumbs up. We'll see you next time. Ghost, catch you later, man.
Later, man.